Hello everybody and welcome to English Grammar with Ameya sir, and the topic for today is Unit 4.3 Intellectual Rubbish. Sounds interesting, is it not? It is. It's a popular oxymoron, intellectual rubbish, and this was one video that was demanded by a lot of students, trust me on this. Now, and there is a reason why. Normally when you have chapters, well, there is a proper storyline, there are characters, there's some climax. Well, this one is pure theory. The writer here has expressed his views about what things we should keep in mind when we adopt some customs or we follow an ideology. What are the things, how our attitude should be, etc. So I strongly suggest that you pay meticulous attention. In this lecture, I promise that we will deal with the full explanation. Every line must be understood by you. There are grammar entries, there is interesting vocabulary, and there is fantastic language study that is going to come your way. Last but not the least, we will of course deal with the textual exercises, I promise. I suggest that you have your textbook ready. And again, if this turns out to be a long video, then you can divide this into 2 or 3 parts depending on the time that you have at hand. Okay, let's dive straight into the topic. First, as usual, we will learn about the writer. So, the full name of the writer is Bertrand Arthur William Russell, and he has received the honors OM and FRS. What is the meaning of that? OM is Order of Merit, it's a special honor conferred, and FRS means that he has earned the Fellowship of the Royal Society. That's big. He was a British polymath, philosopher, mathematician, historian, writer, and a Nobel laureate. Oh, that is huge. Let me explain this word polymath. Polymath is somebody who has knowledge about a lot of different fields or areas or sectors. Well versed with many things, polymath. He was engaged in pacifist activities during the First World War. He wrote more than 60 books. That's phenomenal. And thousands of articles, countless. In this chapter, he urges all to follow a path that is rational, scientific, and logical than to get into useless, trivial arguments. That's why this chapter comes at the right age for you guys to learn. Last but not the least, he has provided examples that emphasize this point. So, having done all this, we'll start with the lesson. When I read it or explain it, give me your 100% undivided attention. You know I was about to say that, right? All right, so at the end of every slide, you can pause, make your notes, and then resume when ready. Let me start. To avoid the various foolish opinions to which mankind are prone, no superhuman genius is required. A few simple rules will keep you not from all error but from silly error. Now, prone is likely to suffer from, and genius is exceptional intelligence or astuteness. This is one word, guys, I want you to learn. Okay, astuteness, ability to assess the situation very fast. So, let's look at the language study here. Nowadays, guys, it's important that you use humankind or human race instead of mankind and restricting it to the masculine gender. It is better to be correct when you speak. So humankind or human race is better than saying mankind. Another thing is, look at the word all. It is in italics for greater emphasis. So if you follow certain rules which are suggested by the writer here, you will definitely save some embarrassment and you will safeguard yourself against some errors, although not all errors. As far as grammar is concerned, this entry, not from all error but from silly error is repetition. Why? Because the word error has been repeated for a better poetic effect. It is at this point that you can pause the video. Allow me to go to the next slide, please. If the matter is one that can be settled by observation, make the observation yourself. Aristotle could have avoided the mistake of thinking that women have fewer teeth than men by the simple device of asking Mrs. Aristotle to keep her mouth open while he counted. He did not do so because he thought he knew. Thinking that you know when in fact you don't is a fatal mistake to which we are all prone. I believe myself that hedgehogs eat black beetles because I have been told that they do. But if I were writing a book on the habits of hedgehogs, I should not commit myself until I had seen one enjoying this unappetizing diet. Aristotle, however, was less cautious. Now, fatal is likely to cause death. It is a fatal mistake, the writer says. And hedgehogs, now you can see it in the image, as the creature is able to roll itself into a ball for defense. And of course, you have the image of a black beetle as well. Now, what does this paragraph tell you? Aristotle had a misconception. He believed that women have fewer teeth than men, and it was very simple for him to avoid this error. He just should have asked his better half to keep her mouth wide open and should have counted. He would have realized that men and women have same number of teeth. He did not do so. Why? Because he thought he knew. Guys, this is a very important thing. When you think you know, but in fact you don't, and you draw conclusions, that can be fatal. It is always important that you check, you verify, and confirm whatever it is that you think you know. And it is always okay to admit that, okay, I don't know this, and acquire that knowledge than to have overconfidence and say, 10 different things. As a youngster, as a teenager, always learn this. That's why I said this lesson comes to you at the right time. I'm really happy that you're learning this. Okay. Let's look at the language study here. Look at the punctuation mark. The set of 3 dots right at the end are, the ellipses. Singular is ellipsis, the plural is ellipsis. The SIS becomes SES. That's the punctuation mark, guys. Please remember that. Let's take a look at some grammar entries. Well, I think this is the same entry that we had for the last one, so nothing much. We can pause the video. Let's continue. Many matters, however, are less easily brought to the test of experience. If, like most of mankind, you have passionate convictions on many such matters, there are ways in which you can make yourself aware of your own bias. Now, the word is bias, B-I-A-S. The meaning has been provided, which is an unjust behavior in favor of doing something which is full of prejudice. You think that's it, okay? You're partial towards it. That's bias. If an opinion contrary, which means opposite in nature, if an opinion, and by the way, it is opinion, not opinion. The correct pronunciation is opinion. Just every word when it begins with O doesn't make the O sound. Just like onion. You don't say onion, right? It's onion. Similarly, this is opinion. If an opinion contrary to your own makes you angry, that is a sign that you are subconsciously aware of having no good reason for thinking as you do. If someone maintains that 2 and 2 are 5, or that Iceland is on the equator, you feel pity rather than anger unless you know so little of arithmetic or geography that his opinion shakes your own contrary conviction. Let me explain that, guys. You all know 2 and 2 make 4. But if someone insists, no, 2 and 2 is 5, well, then you don't really feel anger. I mean, you feel pity for the knowledge the guy has. I mean, somebody, he needs help or she needs help. Now, in cases where your confidence is so low that you think your friend speaks so confidently that he says 2 plus 2 is 5, I'm telling you, and your self-esteem, your confidence is so low that you give up and you surrender, you yield to that pressure, and you yourself believe that, yeah, maybe 2 plus 2 is 5, who knows, my friend is saying so. Well, then that's not fair. So that's why the poet, rather the writer here, urges us to have some self-esteem and go for what you know is right, go for facts, check your facts, and then be confident. Let me continue. The most savage controversies. Now, savage is wild or violent or something that is very uncivilized. And controversies is a public disagreement over an issue. Savage controversies are those or about matters as to which there is no good evidence either way, which is free to interpret. And then there is a controversy. So whenever you find yourself getting angry about a difference of opinion, be on your guard, and you will probably find on examination that your belief is going beyond what the evidence warrants. Guys, this is a very important point. Let me say this. Whenever there is something that is free to be interpreted, according to from individual to individual, there can be many perspectives. Well, there always often is a controversy. And that's why you must sometimes, as they say, you must agree to disagree. And this is a very important point, guys. You must agree to disagree. But just because if an opinion is contrary to what you believe doesn't make it bad, doesn't make it the worst in the world. Everybody is entitled to their own point of view. This lesson teaches you to be mature, to take things in the right attitude, in the right spirit. It's very important. And there is more about it in the next slide. Let's see what's there as far as the grammar is concerned here. Yes, there's a beautiful question for clauses. If someone maintains 2 and 2 are 5, you feel pity rather than anger. So here, the part of after comma, you feel pity rather than anger is the main clause, and the subordinator if introduces the subordinate adverb clause of condition. It's very important. You can pause the video at this point, study everything properly. Allow me to go to the next one. I told you there is more about that in the coming slide, is it not? Observe this. And by the way, guys, when I read it, I'm sure that you're paying attention to the way I'm making my sounds, to my pronunciations, to my pauses, intonations, the way I pause. Those things are also very important. I encourage, that's why I feel that watching videos on my channel is a little better experience as far as learning English is concerned. You are a student of 9th standard and you belong to an English medium school. So if English is your medium, then you have to understand things in English. Initially, it might be a little tough, but as you put yourself into this position, you will acquire that language. I'm telling you, and that is a big quality you will achieve, and that is a nice control over the language that you will achieve. That's why enjoy this lecture, which is English to English, not Hindi to English. Okay, I don't like that idea where teachers use Hindi to teach a lesson in of the English textbook, especially for English medium. That's not fair. So when I read it, pay attention. Let's continue. What's there in this one? Becoming aware of foreign customs, however, does not always have a beneficial effect. In the 17th century, when the Manchus conquered China, it was the custom among the Chinese for the woman to have small feet, and among the Manchus for the men to wear pigtails. Instead of each dropping their own foolish custom, they each adopted the foolish custom of the other, and the Chinese continued to wear pigtails until they shook off the dominion of the Manchus in the revolution of 1911. Now the dominion is control, total supremacy, okay, authority. So what is this? This is very clear. When two customs meet each other, well, what people should try to do is to adopt whatever is a good practice. But instead, what happened during this Chinese and Manchus conflict is that they each adopted a stupid custom from each other, according to the writer. And so instead of adopting a good practice, they each adopted a bad habit of each other. So that's not what you should look to do. That's why whenever you meet somebody new, there is a new personality, always try to look at the positives, the brighter side, and try to learn and see to it that you acquire something that brings about a positive change in you. Nobody is perfect, not you, not I, nobody is perfect. But look at the brighter side so that you will always find things to learn, qualities to imbibe. IMBIBE, qualities to imbibe. Let us study more as far as grammar and language study is concerned. Oh, this is nice. This is really nice. Does the letter U always follow the letter Q in English as far as spellings are concerned? I have provided you with 3 examples where U does not follow Q. Normally, it's always Q, U, is it not? Think of words and you'll always think of Q, U. But Kintar, Kavali and QWERTY. These are 3 words as an example I've chosen, just to point out that it's not always U after the letter Q in English. For grammar, there's a make affirmative example. It does not always have a beneficial effect. It does have an adverse effect sometimes or from time to time. So whenever you remove the negative words, no, not, never, neither, nor, you make it affirmative. Remember, you don't change the tense and you don't change the meaning. You can pause the video at this point. Please allow me to go to the next one. A good way of ridding yourself of certain kinds of dogmatism. Dogmatism is sticking to one's own belief and be reluctant to change. You don't want to change. You think what you know is perfect. Even when proven wrong, you don't want to change. That is dogmatic. And by the way, guys, you should never be so stubborn. You should never be so dogmatic. If, again, going back to that example, someone says 2 plus 2 is 5, or let's say if someone says the sun rises in the west, you tell the guy, dude, is east. No, sun rises in the west. The next day at sunrise, you take him to some place where you can see the sunrise. You take the compass with you and then convincingly show him or her that the sun rises in the east. Still, dogmatism is no. It might be, something wrong with the sun today. The sun rises in the west normally. That's called dogmatism. You don't want to change, even when convincingly you've been shown with evidence that what you believe is not all that right. That shows that you are dogmatic if you are reluctant to change. Always remember, the only constant thing is change. So whatever was right maybe is not right today. And whatever you believe is not 100% foolproof. It might be wrong. It might be erroneous word there. So always be willing to accept. Be open to new ideas. And if you are open to new ideas, you know what? Then people come to you with new ideas. If someone knows that this guy is someone who believes dogmatically that the sun rises in the west, nobody will come to you with a new idea. So make sure that you're open to new ideas and have the right attitude and right approach towards them. Don't be dogmatic, unwilling to change. Don't be like that. Let's continue. What else do we have here? Let me continue reading. There are other words from the glossary, but we'll deal with them when I come to those words. When I was young, I lived much outside my own country. We are talking about the author here. In France, Germany, Italy, and the United States. I found this very profitable in diminishing the intensity of insular prejudice. Now, insular is narrow-mindedness, a narrow approach of what I know is the best. And prejudice is judgment without adequate information, pre-decided on whether something is good or bad. That's prejudice. Okay, let's consider a simple example at your level. Let's say there is a new admission in your school, and about this boy, you looked at him and you have made up your mind that he must be a mean fellow. Actually, you have no evidence to support this. You just have made up your mind. That's your prejudice, that you feel that the fellow is mean. And then turns out that he might be the most kind-hearted fellow there ever was who came in your life. You were wrong. So that was your prejudice. You pre-decided about something being good or bad. That's not the case. Okay, that's called prejudice. And insular is narrow-minded. So the author says here that because he had residence and had to live in different countries because of some circumstances and issues, he says that it was actually beneficial because he got rid of all the prejudice. That's nice. What do we have? Next, if you cannot travel, seek out people with whom you disagree and read a newspaper belonging to a party that is not yours. If the people and the newspaper seem mad, perverse, and wicked, remind yourself that you seem so to them. In this opinion, both parties may be right, but they cannot both be wrong. This reflection should generate certain caution. Guys, always remember that if your group believes that some other group has all maniac monsters or bad guys, rest assured that they might hold the same opinion of you. It's possible, is it not? And at times there is nothing right or wrong. At times it's just the way you're born and brought up. It's just that you are comfortable with a few things, other are comfortable with some different things. The way they are brought up, they all cherish their own lifestyles, is it not? So the writer says that it's important to take a closer look from their point of view. Maybe try to understand why it is that's being said. What is the basis for that? Why do they believe what they believe? What kind of ideology do they have and why? So try to understand it and try to look at it from their perspective, from their point of view, and maybe you will learn more. Let's continue. This reflection should generate a certain caution. I'm sure there will be a grammar question based on this. Yes, change the voice. This reflection should generate a certain caution. Always look at the action word. Generate is the action word here. So change the voice, you start after that. A certain caution should be generated. Should be generated by whom? By this reflection. For language study, there's this beautiful thing because there are countries mentioned: France, Germany, Italy. Well, we have done a revision video on our channel that's available. It's about demonyms. And what is a demonym? A word that shows the natives or inhabitants of a particular country, state, region, area, locality, etc. The link has been provided. You should go ahead and watch it. It's in the revision playlist. The video is about demonyms. A simple 1 mark to score. I thought of adding this here because you have countries mentioned here: France, French, Germany, German, Italy, Italian, United States is America, so American. Yankee is another word that comes to my mind. You should go ahead and pause the video here. Allow me to go to the next one, please. The next slide. Becoming aware. Oh, we have done that. In fact, we were discussing the Manchus thing, is it not? Here, I have read the paragraph already, so let me deal with the language study. It's off OF and off OFF. OF is belonging to, OFF is moving away, leave, or situated far from. Yes, they are sort of homophones, but they are different in meaning. Grammar. They shook off the dominion of the Manchus in the revolution of 19. Frame a WH type question. What do you do there? You frame a question such that the underlined part becomes the answer. So you will write, when did they shake off the dominion of the Manchus? Then the underlined part will become the answer. Point to note, because you have used did, you will not go into the past tense again. When did they shook? When did they shake off? Because you have used did, you switch back to using the present form. Alright guys, let's go ahead. For those who have enough psychological imagination, P silent there guys, the word is psychological. For those who have enough psychological imagination, it is a good plan to imagine an argument with a person having a different bias. This has one advantage and only one, as compared with actual conversation with opponents. This one advantage is that the method is not subject to the same limitations of time and space. They have provided us with example, guys. Continue. Mahatma Gandhi deplored railways. Now, deplored means expressed strong disapproval. He was unhappy with the railways coming in, and steamboats and machinery to add to it. He would have liked to undo the whole of the Industrial Revolution. You may never have an opportunity of actually meeting anyone who holds this opinion today. Of course, because everybody thinks that railways, steamboats, machinery, well, that's part of our lives. You cannot imagine our lives without it. But that's exactly what the writer is saying. Always try to think why something was said. What was their point of view? And then maybe then you can make your own decision. Okay, because in Western countries, most people take the advantage of modern techniques for granted. But if you want to make sure that you are right in agreeing with the prevailing opinion is something that is in existence, you will find it a good plan to test the arguments that occur to you by considering what Gandhi might have said in the refutation of them. Refutation is in contrast or in opposition, to prove that the statement is wrong. That is refutation to them. I have sometimes been led actually to change my mind as a result of this kind of imaginary dialogue. And short of this, I have frequently found myself growing less dogmatic and cocksure through realizing the possible reasonableness of a hypothetical opponent. Now, hypothetical is a supposition, something that is not real. A built-up imaginary scenario is hypothetical. We've done dogmatism, I've talked enough about it, and we've also talked about the word bias. Now, let me explain this to you. Again, the point is, when there is a difference of opinion, don't just dismiss it as wrong. Try to find out why things are being said. Look for facts, look for evidence, back test it, go back in history and find out what exactly was the situation, the relation to the then relevant things, and then build your own opinion. But again, be open-minded. Don't be narrow-minded. That is all the point. Of course, machinery, railway, and everything is essential. There's no doubt about that. The lesson just tells this, highlights it again, that we must take a closer look and try to understand things from someone else's perspective. Be calm and collective. Let's continue. What else do we have here? Yeah, grammar entries. You may never have an opportunity. Pick out the modal, auxiliary, and status type. You have this word may, and that shows modal, auxiliary of possibility. Guys, kindly pause the video. Allow me, please, to go to the next slide. Look at the first line itself, guys. Give me your 100% undivided attention. Look at how interesting the very first few words here are. Okay. Be very wary. Be very wary. That means very cautious, very alert. Very wary of opinions that flatter your self-esteem. What do you mean by flatter? Appear pleasing without any foundation or basis. It's appear very pleasing for yourself. Flatter your self-esteem. Both men and women, 9 times out of 10, are firmly convinced of the superior excellence of their own sex. There is abundant evidence on both sides. Let me complete reading the paragraph and I shall explain. If you are a man, you can point out that most poets and men of science are male. If you are a woman, you can retort that so are most criminals. The question is inherently insoluble, but self-esteem conceals this from most people. Let's take a look at the glossary first, the vocabulary, then I'll explain. I have already explained wary, which means cautious. Abundant is plentiful, simple. Inherently, oh, this means existing in itself, within itself, as an inseparable quality. Conceal is to hide. You might have concealed wiring in your house, is it not? So conceal is hide. Retort is to say something as a quick and sharp reply, an intelligent response. Retort. Self-esteem is a confidence in your own abilities. Now, before we study language study and grammar, let me explain this as I promised. Guys, men and women, they are very sure that they are, men are sure that they are better than women, or women believe that they are better than the men. This is a never-ending battle. In reality, they both are incomplete without each other. That's a fact. But then there is always a heated discussion about who is better. The lesson says that men can point out and say that, most poets, scientists, they are men, they are not female, they are men. Now, women can retort and say that, yeah, most criminals are also male, by the way. They are, then there also you have the majority. So it's a never-ending battle, really. That's our bias. So men will always believe men are better, and women will keep believing that, women are just great. In reality, there's nothing like that. This question itself is utterly ridiculous. They both are important, they both are incomplete without each other. That's bias, by the way. You firmly believe what you know is right, unwilling to change. That's what it is. And sometimes you can avoid such trivial debates, by the way. This debate makes no sense about who is better. Sometimes there's just no debating that, because there's never going to be a clear winner. Never. All right. Language study. Yeah. Wary and very. The difference, look at that. Very, that's why I have provided the Devanagari script as well, along with the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. That's to the far right. And in the middle, you have the Devanagari script. Very and wary. Very and wary. I'm sure you have enjoyed the difference. There is abundant evidence on both sides. Make interrogative question for grammar. Isn't there abundant evidence on both sides? So you change the auxiliary from positive to negative. There is abundant evidence. Isn't there abundant? Do not forget the question mark at the end. This is the one mistake students make, and really, I feel so sad at times that they know the answer, they end up losing marks. All right, make it full screen. Yeah, and now you can go ahead and resume when ready. Yes, let's continue with the lesson. Give me your 100% undivided attention. We are all, whatever part of the world we come from, persuaded. Guys, it's not persuaded. Persuaded. Imagine SWA, sway. Persuaded. The meaning of that is caused to do something. Okay, or make something happen. Make someone do something. Persuaded. That our own nation is superior to all others. Seeing that each nation has its characteristic merits and demerits, meaning advantages and disadvantages, we adjust our standard of values so as to make out that the merits possessed by our nation are the really important ones, while its demerits are comparatively trivial. That means of little importance. Let me explain that. Guys, we are talking about bias, and this is a very common bias. My country is the greatest. Well, I'm not blaming anyone for believing that. I believe India is the greatest country. I believe that strongly. But then again, what happens is we then at times, we neglect the real issues at times because we tend to believe that our country is the best. The lesson says that every country will have its merits and demerits. It's important to be proud of your country, believe that it has potential to become the greatest, but not to neglect the issues and then blame it on the other countries like, okay, we have this, you don't have that, we are developed in this area, you're not well developed in that faculty or domain. That's not fair. Everyone should be rational in their approach and believe that there are merits and demerits, and we must behave without any bias. If we do have the bias, then we'll probably never improve because we'll never believe that there are issues that need to be addressed. It's very important, guys. Again, I'm saying this lesson comes to you at the right age. Language study, well, you have a homework here. You will have to create your own sentences using once, ones, and ones. Guys, this is a very interesting assignment. And in one of the previous videos, I believe that I have talked about it. Who knows? I somehow feel that I have done this. Anyway, that's your homework. Grammar. We adjust our standard of values. We adjust our standard of values, don't we? Present tense, no auxiliary, you use don't. We adjust our standard of values, don't we? Again, present tense, no auxiliary provided, use don't. We have video on question tags as well on our channel. Guys, please make sure and watch such videos. It's very important. You will also understand how we came up with this answer. You can pause the video. Kindly allow me to go to the next slide. Let me read it. Give me your 100% undivided attention. Here again, the rational man will admit that the question is one to which there is no demonstrably right answer. It is more difficult to deal with the self-esteem of a man as man because we cannot argue out the matter with some non-human mind. The only way I know of dealing with this general human conceit is excessive pride in oneself. It's called conceit. Is to remind ourselves that man is a brief episode in the life of a small planet in a little corner of the universe, and that for aught we know, other parts of the cosmos may contain beings as superior to ourselves as we are to jellyfish. What an end to this paragraph. Before that, let me teach you this word, which is an archaic term, out, which is variantly spelled as O-U-G-H-T, ought, which means anything at all. Now, everything is so relative, is it not? I always say this. Everything is so relative. What do you mean by that? Maybe you compare yourself with your friend. Okay, maybe you're smarter than him. Let's say. But then it's so relative. Does that mean you're smartest in the world? No, because you have only compared two people yet. Everything is relative. The higher you go, you'll find people smarter and smarter. Is it not? Richer and richer. Taller and taller. Until there is a Guinness Book of World Records. But yeah, the point being, there are always people better than you, things better than we have. The important thing is to keep the development going and allow people at times to have their opinion and even go wrong at times. The lesson has given us a beautiful example. We, the human race, not mankind, human race. I hope you remember something discussed in this lecture. The human race believes that we are the best across galaxies. We are the best in the universe. But who knows? Someday we might know of some other civilization and they might have advanced so much that we might be something like a jellyfish to them. And they might have advanced that much. It's only up until the time we meet them. So always be willing to accept that there should be no Napoleon ego, just a dot on the earth. The earth itself is a dot compared to the solar system. There are so many solar systems and there are so many stars. Nothing but a dot. Dot is also a big word there. Why? Why so much of ego? So that's why be open to new ideas, have a scientific approach and deal with things as they are. Don't have your own prejudice or bias. Do consult facts, look at history and learn. Then definitely, then you are entitled to have your own opinion. And still, if you have a difference of opinion with somebody, as I said earlier, agree to disagree. And sometimes there is nothing right or wrong. That's what the paragraph told us. Sometimes there is nothing right or wrong. Take a simple example. It's your birthday. You decided to go for a party. All the friends will wish you happy birthday because it's your birthday, and they will probably do something that you like. But that doesn't mean that whatever it is that you did was the best ever. It was because it was your day, they made it special for you. But when it's their birthday, you will do, I'm sure, you're a good friend, you will do what they like. Won't you? You will, you should. Sometimes there is nothing right or wrong about it. It's just a different thought process. Anyway, let's continue. Language study. Compound words. There are 3 of them in this paragraph. Now that's why you should attend the lectures. Sometimes while reading the chapters, you miss out on these observations. Within this paragraph, you had 3 entries. Self-esteem, there's non-human, then there is jellyfish. Grammar entries, well, yeah. We adjust our standard of living, don't we? Or standard of values, same entry there. Okay, pause the video. Remember there was this archaic word, okay? Now this one is a huge paragraph. Let me make it full screen. You can take this as a reading challenge. Guys, let's take this as a reading challenge. I will read it and try to read it with me. You remember the reading challenge, right? I hope you do. The thing is, I shall read it. You should try to read it with me and try to do it very sincerely and see if you were able to do it as fluently as I did it in a neutral Indian accent, the way I talk. And by now, if you have been a regular viewer of my channel or have learned lessons from me, you know why doing this in English is important by now. Your fluency, your command over the language improves significantly. Let's start, guys. Big paragraph, reading challenge. Let me read. Other passions besides self-esteem are common sources of error. Of these, perhaps the most important is fear. Fear sometimes operates directly by inventing rumors of disaster in wartime or by imagining objects of terror such as ghosts. Sometimes it operates indirectly by creating belief in something comforting such as the elixir of life or heaven for ourselves and hell for our enemies. Fear has many forms. Fear of death, fear of the dark, fear of the unknown, and that vague generalized fear that comes to those who conceal from themselves their more specific terrors. Until you have admitted your own fears to yourself and have guarded yourself by a difficult effort of will against their myth-making power, you cannot hope to think truly about many matters of great importance, especially those with which religious beliefs are concerned. Fear is the main source of superstition and one of the main sources of cruelty. To conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom in the pursuit of truth, as in the endeavor after a worthy manner of life. Big one, right? Let me explain this, guys. Let me explain this. Fear is something that you have out of your ignorance. Let me come on main cam for this. What did I just say? Fear is something that comes to you out of your ignorance. You have fear of the dark. Well, I don't know about you, but my fear in the childhood, to some extent even today, is when I stand next to tall structures like a tower or a huge building, For some reason, I feel, will it come on me now? Will it fall? Will it collapse? Irrational, but it's there. So everybody has some fear. What happens is this fear at times gives rise to superstitions. It does. For example, in India, in our country, it's a common myth that if a black cat crosses your path, something bad shall happen. You see someone's face, then maybe bad things will happen to you. Though that's not a good sign, that's not a good omen, whatever it is. Because you have fear, you will fall prey to those things. If you have the right approach, then you would know that there is nothing like that. You will for sure know that nothing bad is going to happen. And even if something bad does happen, unfortunately, that's not because of that black cat that crossed your path. Who saw what happened to the black cat? Because you crossed its path. Any botheration to see that? Nobody does that. Of course, the lesson goes ahead and tells us that everything should not be 100% scientific, because then the world will be very boring. 100%. We got to have our own beliefs. Sometimes we do feel that something is lucky. Like you might believe that, when you meet somebody, you really have a great day. Or maybe there is some object that you wear, it's lucky for you. Something, some stone that you carry, some object is lucky for you, that brings you good luck. Or always, during exams, you write with a certain pen. It's very common among the students. You can share it in the comments if there is any such belief that you hold. That's fun in life. But of course, remember that there is no concrete foundation for your belief. It is just that you believe. And out of that psychology, maybe you do better. And then you give credit of that to that talisman or that mascot. We will have these words in the lesson next. Okay. As far as grammar is concerned, yeah, the same entry. Elixir of life is the word I want you to learn. Is there in the glossary, guys? A magical liquid. It's amrit in Sanskrit, that will prolong life indefinitely. Vague is uncertain or imprecise. You might have heard of this. The farming or agriculture in India is still dependent on the vagaries of the monsoon. I'm sure you've heard that line there. And endeavor. Sure you've heard of this in the lower standards. In any case, if this is the first time you're hearing this, endeavor is a sincere effort to achieve something. It's endeavor. Okay? It should be your endeavor to acquire, intellect and be successful and do good for your country, make it proud. Next one. There are two ways of avoiding fear. One is by persuading. Remember, I said this previously, not persuading, persuading, SWA. One is by persuading ourselves that we are immune from disaster, and the other is by the practice of sheer courage. The latter is difficult. Guys, will have this in the language study. Let's do it immediately. Later is after some time. Latter is something mentioned second. The second mention. So there are two things. The one that is mentioned later is the latter. Now that's nice. Something that is mentioned later is latter. Let me give you a simple example, okay? I say Ram and Sham are two friends. The latter was very intelligent. So Sham was very intelligent. The one mentioned second, latter. Remember that. The one mentioned later is latter. The second mention. That's a nice hyphen word I taught you there, is it not? The second mention. Let me continue reading it. The word, by the way, sheer means totally, pure courage, sheer courage. The latter is difficult and to everybody becomes impossible at a certain point. The former has therefore always been more popular. Primitive magic has the purpose of securing safety either by injuring enemies or by protecting oneself by talismans, spells, or incantations. I told you, remember, we'll have these words. Talismans are objects that have magical powers. Now, I'm sure you've studied the chapter how the first letter was written, and you have this necklace that the tribemen believed had magical powers. I hope you remember that. It's a talisman. What do you mean by incantations? The series of words uttered as a magical spell like abracadabra or something like that. Now, let's continue. Without any essential change, belief in such ways of avoiding danger survived throughout the many centuries of civilization. And set of dots. Come on, guys. Come on. In this lecture, I've taught you that. What is that set of dots? Ellipsis is the word. We studied this in this lecture. Set of the dots showing continuation or omission. Ellipsis. The plural is ellipsis with SES. Science has now lessened the belief in magic. Yes, as you develop scientific approach, your belief in magic gradually reduces. For example, if someone was to come to you and show you a trick where the magician conjures currency notes, then, well, as a child, you would have thought that, hey, he must be the richest guy in the world, and Elon Musk is nobody compared to him because, hey, he can create money. But then you know it's just a sleet of hands. It's what? Sleet of hands. Hat chalaki. That's what you say. Sleet of hands. That's why it's important to attend the lecture in English. So many new words coming your way in a perfect neutral Indian tongue. That's why you got to enjoy the lectures. I will say this again. This is the right point to say. I believe it's 45 minutes into the lecture now. If you are having time constraints, then you should divide it and watch it into two parts. It's not quintessential that you have to sit there and watch it all in one go. Otherwise, then you'll miss out on the knowledge. You might not be 100% there. Physically, you might be. Mentally, you might lost somewhere. Okay, I was talking about this. That now you will believe as you grow up that there is no magic. It's just sleet of hands. And what has led to this thinking? Your knowledge of science. Very important. Let's continue. I believe this will be a change the voice question. We'll see that when we deal with the grammar. Science has now lessened the belief in magic. But many people place more faith in mascots. What is a mascot? A person or thing that brings good luck. Again, I am saying this, that there is nothing wrong in you believing this. But I believe where you can believe things as far as positivity is concerned. You should not blame somebody if you do something that is completely stupid. You cannot blame it on somebody else. As far as good luck is concerned, you can attribute that to anybody and nobody will mind that. But of course, one thing is what you should remember is that everything depends on your own effort. You have to put in a decent effort. Anyway, but many people place more faith in mascots than they are willing to avow. Now, avow is to assert or confess openly. That's avow. That's a new word for you, I'm sure, provided that meaning in the vocabulary. Neither a man nor a crowd nor a nation can be trusted to act humanly or sanely, is it not? To think sanely under the influence of a great fear, and for this reason, poltroons are more prone to cruelty than brave men and are also more prone to superstition. As I want to say something, look at the word poltroons. Did you take a look at the word poltroons? In your textbook, the current edition at least, there is a spelling error. You have P-O-L in the textbook, but in the glossary on the textbook, on the same page, you have it as P-A-L with the meaning. And then there is a confusion whether it is P-O-L or P-A-L. What do you think? It is P-O-L, of course, because I had included that with the same spelling on the slide. It's poltroon, by the way, not pooltroon. It's poltroon. And what is that? An utterly coward person. An utter coward is a poltroon. What does this paragraph tell us? The paragraph tells us that although we know that we should be scientific, at times we succumb to pressure, and that gives rise to cruelty. We all have heard of insane sacrifices, animal sacrifices, human sacrifices under the name of God, under the pretext of pleasing God. How can God be happy with the sacrifice of an animal he created? Come on, I'll ask you. How can that happen? How can a certain goddess be pleased, but if you offer a sacrifice, you kill an animal that she created? It's her creation. If she wanted it dead, she would have it dead. She has not appointed you as the agent to do so. Anyway, cruelty at times is based on lack of knowledge. There are many people, in fact, who believe that the more we suffer, the more good things will come in life. There couldn't be a thing farther than reality. How can that be the case? What's the correlation? That's why I never hesitate in asking for good things from life. I'm telling you that. I'm giving you the power here. Ask for good things from life. People feel that the more we suffer, more pain we endure, the more happiness we will get. Well, it's not essential. Taking efforts is, yes, it's a process, but doesn't mean that you want the pain and suffering so that one day you might see happiness. Well, that's not how it works. If you have to, ask God for happiness, ask God for money, ask God for talent, good people, good friends, good relationships. Ask. Be open for good things always and demand. It's not quintessential that you subject yourself to cruelty and to please God, or with a sense of belief that the more you endure pain, suffering, and agony, the better your future will be. Your future is dependent on what you do and your happy thoughts. Anyway, let's continue with the super lesson coming your way, is it not? That's why this video is required. Let's go through the grammar. Yeah, I told you that. This was the line I had thought that would be there. Science has now lessened the belief in magic. How do you do this? Change the voice. You look at the action word. The action word is lesson. You start after that. The belief in magic has now been lessened, not being, okay? With has, have, and had, you use been. Has now been lessened by science. Alright, let me make it full screen, please. You can pause the video. I believe the channel logo over here is coming in your way. Okay. And now please allow me to go to the next one. Let's read it. Give me your 100% undivided attention, guys. But we have been getting too solemn. When I say solemn, the N is silent there. It's not Solomon. Another word that comes quickly to my mind is damn, D-A-M-N. Okay, column, autumn. Yeah, there are words with silent N. Solemn means very formal, very serious. So the writer says that, okay, I've been getting too formal and serious. So let's talk about something light here. Superstitions are not always dark and cruel. Often they add to the gaiety of life. Now, gaiety is cheerfulness and festivity. I told you life will be very boring if everything is just scientific and mathematics. There has to be creativity. There has to be new thoughts. And that allows for variety, is it not? That adds for some freshness. The writer says, I received once a communication from the god Osiris giving me his telephone number. Now that's hilarious. Someone who claimed to be the god Osiris gave his telephone number to the writer, and he at that time lived in a suburb of Boston. Amazing. God lives in Boston. He's restricted to a suburb, huh? Fun, is it not? Although I did not enroll myself among his worshippers, his letter gave me pleasure. I have frequently received letters from men announcing themselves as the Messiah and urging me not to omit to mention this important fact in my lectures. Now here there is a very important question. Why do you think that someone would have written to the writer something that supports superstition when he knows how the writer is? To gain publicity. That's a clear answer there. And so someone who proclaimed himself as God, proclaim is to declare. Someone who proclaimed himself as God, and God stayed in Boston, breaking news there, and then says that, you know, I'm going to do something, so you should be my follower. Of course, the writer didn't fall for that. As far as the word enroll is concerned, there's this interesting language study entry. Enroll with E-N-R-O-L-L is US English, the American English. That's why in the lesson you see that way. However, in India and in UK, British English, Indian English, you have it as enroll with a single L. Please check out the Oxford English Dictionary if you have any doubt about this. The extra L. Another example that I can share with you as far as this single L and double L is concerned. There are two in fact. How about installment? Check it out. The American English and the British English. Another one is jewelry. The single L and the double L. Check it out, guys. Let me know in the comments. Now, these are important observations. You know what? Grammar. I have frequently received letters. Change the voice. Received is the action word. You start after the action word. So your answer is letters have been. On the previous slide, I told you with has, have, and had, you don't use being, you use been. So letters have been frequently received by me. Although I did not enroll myself among his worshippers, for clauses, okay? The part after the comma is the main clause, and the subordinator here is although, and this is the subordinate adverb clause of concession or contrast. Guys, it is important to write it down as subordinate adverb clause of concession / contrast. Mention both the words. I'm going to tell you why. What happens, guys, is your papers in the board, the 10th standard, they are not corrected by your school teachers. They are corrected by anyone across the state. And you should be open to the ideas that they know it by as contrast. You might know it as concession. Better mention both the words. They are one and the same. Even, develop this habit in the 9th standard. Otherwise, you'll be wondering, sir, this is 9th standard. Why should we worry? Develop this as a habit, because you would still have the question on clauses next standard in the 10th standard. Sure, right? Any doubts? No. So develop this as a habit. Write it down as subordinate adverb clause of concession / contrast. Mention both the words. Okay. Let's continue. Let me make it full screen just so that you can make your notes. Whenever you are ready, resume the video, please. Let's go to the next one. Now we are approaching the climax, guys. A big write-up. Let me read it. It's a big, sizable. In fact, there are 3 paragraphs here. Let me read it. You can consider this as well as a reading challenge. So let me read it uninterrupted. Pay 100% undivided attention. I admire especially a certain prophetess who lived beside a lake in northern New York State about the year 1820. She announced to her numerous followers that she possessed the power of walking on water, and that she proposed to do so at 11 o'clock on a certain morning. At the stated time, the faithful assembled in their thousands beside the lake. She spoke to them, saying, "Are you all entirely persuaded that I can walk on water?" With one voice they replied, "We are." "In that case," she announced, "there is no need for me to do so." And they all went home much edified. Perhaps the world would lose some of its interest and variety if such beliefs were wholly replaced by cold science. A wise man will enjoy the goods of which there is a plentiful supply, and of intellectual rubbish he will find an abundant diet in our own age as in every other. What an extraordinary prophetess. Well, that's a female religious teacher, by the way. She said that she will, on a certain date, give a demonstration. She would walk on water. And so her followers gathered in thousands at the agreed place. She put forth the question, "Do you believe that I can walk on water?" And her followers said, "Yes, you can. We are convinced." Then she said, "If that is the case, there is no need for me to give you the demonstration." And they went home. So she didn't really do what she claimed. And yet people were so happy because they had faith. And they still went home much edified. Now, edified is improved intellectually. Oh, by the way, that is a sarcastic comment here. The writer says that yes, such thoughts are important to add variety in life, to have a different perspective, to bring freshness in life. So you cannot just replace everything with cold science. It will be very boring, very mathematical, very boring indeed. So it is important, but yes, we must not fall prey and become victims of superstition. Very important. Let's look at grammar. There are a couple of entries. Guys, o'clock is off the clock. That's the abbreviation there. Disregard this. Letters have been frequently received by me. That's the previous one there. Let's just disregard that. That's from the previous slide. Disregard that. Okay, now the second one. This is the more important one. In fact, you can mark this with asterisk. It's very important. This one. Very, very important. She said to the followers, are you all persuaded that I can walk on water? Direct, indirect speech. Well, this is a question, so you will change the word said to asked. She asked the followers if they all were persuaded that she could, can will change to could, walk on water. The question mark ends, it changes to a full stop. Again, you can go ahead and pause the video. Allow me to go to the next one, please. Disregard that answer for the previous slide, guys. We are done with the lesson. Now it's time for some textual exercises. Let's deal with the first one. By the way, let's talk about something else. In this one, I believe that we, in this lesson, dealt with besides and beside, if you are attentive. There is a difference. Besides is except everything else, that is, and beside is next to. We have had both in this lesson. Another thing is ghosts is ghosts, not ghosts. In English there is no gh sound. What did I just say? In English there is no gh sound. It doesn't exist. It's ghosts. It's Western Ghats. In English you don't make the gh sound. It's the g. Ghetto. Okay, GHETTO, ghosts. That's an interesting thing I thought you must know. Let's get back to the textual assignments. You have one here. Use the following idioms, expressions in sentences of your own. I'm going to show you the answers. You can pause, make your notes, and whenever you're ready, you can resume. The next one, please. Say why. What's up here? And they have given us the situations and the reasons are here. Again, you can pause the video. Allow me to go to the next one, please. The next page, that is, the next exercise. Make your sentences using, oh, the homophones. I like this. Let's see what's there over here. Well, devise the CE and the SE. The CE is the noun form and SE is the verb form. So there you have it. You can pause the video again. Let's go to the next one. Now this is the one question where you definitely need to study a little better, come up with something that is your own answer. Of course, I don't like spoon feeding. This is the most important question, guys. What is the meaning of intellectual rubbish? Well, that's the title of the lesson. Here is my answer. The term, or rather this term, is an example of oxymoron. I told you, two opposite words, intellectual and rubbish. I mean, it's clearly a great example of oxymoron. The writer wants us to learn to think independently and avoid being dogmatic. We've talked about that word, remember. Often people adopt ideologies without questioning their authenticity, and this can lead to disaster in the future. The writer earnestly urges us to be willing to accept new ideas if there is enough evidence and if there is any scientific approach. Guys, this is very important. This question has to be marked as important. Go ahead and study. I want you to be able to do something that, on your own. So develop your own answer. These are model answers. All right. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that you have enjoyed this lesson. There was a lot of demand for this lesson. And trust me, I am sure that when you heard everything, now you know that this video was important. Make sure that if you have missed out on something, you watch it again. Make your own notes. I'm sure you will do well. We'll meet again soon. Do take care.